Both are international admissions directors to two very prestigious and highly selective colleges with a lot of experience in the field. And they're here with us tonight in order to share their knowledge and some tips in regards to best practices when reaching out to colleges. All my students who have ended up in their institutions are extremely happy with their experience at Union and Wesley. And I'm very happy to present to you Mrs. Nicole Buensley from Union College in upstate New York and Mrs. Milena Mareva from Wellesley College right outside Boston. So, who's starting, Milena or Nicole?
I'm going to get us started. Thank you so much, Nikos, and thank you to all the group of counselors from Greece for organizing this set of events. We're so pleased to be able to connect with you and to share some advice as you embark on your college search. Both Nicole and I coordinate the international admissions process and recruitment at our offices, and we're happy to share some wisdom from our side of the desk. So this is going to be a short 45-minute session. We hope to cover a lot of ground and encourage you to learn about the variety of ways you have of connecting with colleges, specifically right now. We hope to cover how you interact with colleges' mailing lists, how to access and what types of virtual programming or in-person programming might be good to engage in, how to approach interviews, how to consider the virtual communities and discussion boards that are made available by institutions, how to follow social media, and what can you learn from current students, faculty, alums, and staff about our institutions, and what are the best ways to connect with admission officers. So we're going to present for about 20 minutes, and we're going to leave the rest of the time for questions and answers because we are sure you're going to have many and really want to address directly your questions. So I'm going to get us started with something that looks very straightforward, but is essential to how you approach your college search, which is joining the college's mailing lists, right? So every year we have a ton of candidates about whom we've never heard, we haven't heard from them. We haven't been able to send them any information until they become applicants. So obviously they have done their research about our institutions in some way, but they haven't really joined our mailing list. So they haven't had an opportunity to benefit from all the information we send to prospective applicants, which is a lot, and it's varied, and it covers pieces of the admission process, information about deadlines, what are the credentials that you need to start getting ready, and also to invite you to events or invite you to opportunities to explore our institutions, some of which we're going to talk about today. So as basic as it seems, joining a college's mailing list is a very important part of the process and a very important tool that you should be sure to utilize, particularly for those institutions who that are at the top of your list and those you are hoping to learn more from. And I'm conscious that the mail that we send each of our colleges is going to be a lot, so it may feel a little overwhelming to get all the messages. And you don't have to worry. You don't have to read every single one in detail. It's very easy to unsubscribe from mailing lists if you choose to do so. So definitely use a dedicated email address for your college correspondence, both at the prospective student stage and even more importantly, at the admission stage, when you really have to focus on the information that's coming to you as anything that you might be missing from your application, information about ways to engage with interviews, perhaps invitation to interviews, things like that. You don't want to be missing them. So a good practice is to create a dedicated email account or to use the dedicated email account just for your college search correspondence. And we have included some QR codes, right? So the Wellesley one is going to take you to this cute little kitty in a mailbox GIF, and you can join the mailing list. So that's your homework, right? Think about especially the colleges that you did not have a chance to connect with today. Definitely join their mailing list, because I guarantee you're going to learn just from the messages that they send you regularly. So some of those messages are going to be invitations to programs to engage in, whether they be in person. And and right now in this situation, many colleges do not have any in-person options. And the truth is that many international students, even in a non-pandemic world, are not able to get to our campuses. Like, I was an international student. I'm from Bulgaria originally, so in the Middle Ages when I applied, I only got like paper brochures. I'd never been on Wellesley's campus before I became a student there. I had only seen like a few pictures of the campus. So thankfully today, there's a much broader set of opportunities for you to learn about our campuses, even if you'd never set foot there. So there are info sessions, right? The virtual info sessions. There are student-to-student chats. There are panels of faculty and alums and students and conversations that you can be actively engaging. If you go to a student-to-student chat, it will be kind of like today's college fair, except you will be able to ask questions for like several students available from the institution. So definitely be sure to engage with at least one program offered by your top choice institutions. That will be some indication to them that you are actively engaged in learning about them. And also consider joining at least one program for colleges that your counselors are suggesting that you should explore, because you might not know anything about them, but through those programs you will learn a lot. And definitely take a look at the websites. They have the full range of events that are offered, a huge number and variety of them, and keep notes of your impressions. It's going to be You're going to be bombarded with a lot of information in this college process. It's kind of like a marathon in that it requires a lot of effort over a long period of time. And managing that information, consolidating it in your head, and making up your mind about a variety of institutions is going to be helped if you keep sort of a set of notes for every college, and for various pieces of the process. So definitely encourage you to start that. Maybe even after today, you can jot down some basic impressions from the colleges you had a chance to interact with. And a tip is, speaking of marathons and the length of this process, we have always loved visiting in person and doing these types of sessions in person. And we, before the pandemic, used to come to Greece every fall, and loved those opportunities to meet with you in person. But our travel, by the nature of it, was constrained in the fall, so it kind of forced this process to happen in the fall, which is a very busy time for you. Whereas now, with the virtual opportunities, you can really spread them out throughout the entire summer when your schedule is lighter. So try to think about coming up with a plan, like what sessions when you attend them, so you can best utilize the summer and spread out the opportunities. So with that, I'm going to hand the floor to Nicole, who will talk about a very important part of engaging with institutions: interviews.
Thank you. So this is actually my favorite part of any application, I will be very honest, is the interviews, because getting to see someone face to face, even if it's virtual, and putting a face with an application makes an incredible difference. And I know for a lot of students, when they see the word interview, they sort of freak out, right? Like, oh, interview. You know what? If we are doing our jobs well, it should be more fun and less stress. And if it's mostly stress, well, maybe you think about that institution, or maybe the person is just not doing as good a job, because they should make you feel comfortable. Our job is to sort of, make you feel comfortable and have a chance to just chat with you, to get to know you more. And you can do that when you're relaxed and comfortable. So try to be comfortable in your interview. Now, not everyone offers or requires interviews. But what I will say is that if if a school makes them available, even if they're not required, take that opportunity, take that advantage, because it's always an advantage. Even if you bomb the interview, it's going to, most of the time, 99.9% of the time, help your application, because it makes your application more dynamic, it adds depth, and really, honestly, mostly it just always goes really well. You're cool people, so let us get to know you a little bit more beyond the paper application. Now, sometimes, students will think, oh, what's going to happen in that interview? What do I need to prepare for? The best way, honestly, to prepare for your interview is just to take some time to look at the school in advance and think about how it connects to you. So if you're interested in a particular major, take some time to see what's actually available at that school and how it's reflected or available at that school. If you're interested in a particular extracurricular or a sporting opportunity, take a look at that. Know a little bit about what's available. So just do a little bit, and I'm not talking about decades of research. You could spend an hour, just doing a little research, a little homework in advance to know before you set foot into that interview what sorts of things are offered, so you can ask some deeper questions. And to that point, be prepared with questions. So before I get there, first, what are we going to ask you? We're kind of pretty standard folks, and any question we ask you is getting to the same common things. Why are you looking at our school? Why the heck are you looking at Union, for example? What is it that is connecting with you? What sorts of things are you maybe interested in studying? Maybe you know, maybe you don't. What sorts of things are you, thinking you might enjoy or want to do in your life? If you're like, I don't know, I love everything, say that. Say, I don't know, I love everything. That's totally a great answer. If you are thinking about things you want to do for fun, or things that you want to engage with, or things you do outside the classroom, we're going to ask about that. Tell me a little bit more about some of your favorite things that you've done. So we just want to, in some ways, hear from your mouth some of the things you're really enjoying to add some color to the application. And what we're really doing most times is just saying, yeah, this kid's going to be great on campus and really make a difference in a way that just is going to be a part of our community and fits. So those are the types of questions we're going to ask in general, to some degree. What kind of questions do we want you to ask? Things that are important to you. But if you don't know what questions to ask, some good ones are, tell me about your campus community. What's the culture? What's the climate like on campus? What do these average students look like, or what do they do for fun? Those are good questions. Is it a competitive or a collaborative learning environment? That's a great question to learn more about. You can ask specific questions about maybe unique things or programs to our school. So if someone's looking at Union and they say, hey, tell me more about the Minerva program, or tell me about your Steinmetz symposium. I know they've done a little research and they're asking about a couple of special things that are unique to our school. So that's a little bit of word of wisdom with interviews, is just go in feeling comfortable, knowing we're there and on your team, and our job is to help you shine. Be prepared to know a little bit about the programs and what we have to offer, and then just have some questions ready to go, whether the ones I cited or things that are really actually insightful or important to you. And then just relax and have fun. Next slide, please. Now, the next piece of the ways to engage. Now, everyone kind of talks about this thing called demonstrated interest. And really all demonstrated interest is, do you know who the heck we are as a school? And do you know where you're applying to? That's what demonstrated interest is. Do you really know that we are in New York and not another state, right? So do you know the school a little bit of where you're applying to? And so that's why we kind of track if students have been doing their research. And so some ways to do that is joining online forums, which are also incredibly useful to you. They can allow you, there's a ton of them, where you can join in and talk with some of our current students about, what's it like on campus? What's this particular major like? What do students do on the weekend? Can I see some pictures? So joining those forums really allow you to get to know what Union feels like from a student perspective quite often, and to have student-to-student contact in a more relaxed way. Another way for you to gain deeper information in a more fun way sometimes is through various social media platforms. So we've got Insta here. You can take a look at a gajillion YouTube videos, typically for most of us. There are things like campus tours that are recorded, opportunities to hear from faculty from particular departments recorded, things like this, really great informational sessions that you can check out. And then Twitter. So whatever your sort of social media platforms are, you can go in and not only say join the Union College or Wellesley site, but also you can often dig a little deeper. If you're interested in theater, I bet the theater department on our campus also has an Instagram page. Check that out, see what that's like. So taking some time to use your social media platforms, then it just feeds in. You don't have to do a lot of work, especially with Insta. Once you add it, it's there and you can see it. You don't have to do a lot of work to get the sense of the culture, but you're getting a little bit of that fed right into you to sort of casually take a look at some videos. So I encourage you to join that opportunity as well. And then if you ever get to campus at Union, in the middle of all of our materials, you'll see the beautiful Knot Memorial. We have a hashtag Knot Shot. A lot of schools have it. So if you do get to campus, take a shot and add it to the Instagram page or Twitter or whatever you like to use as well. But we encourage you to take a look so that you can get a feel for the place, especially if you can't get to campus.
Great. I cannot say enough how much I love this new concept of a virtual discussion community that many of us have launched and that Nicole talked about. So this kind of it was one result of the pandemic that we created these virtual communities that combine the fun videos as well as the discussion boards on a variety of topics and have all of these community members from our campuses involved. So if you are looking to find out more about the neuroscience opportunities at Wellesley, or how well do our alums do in biotech, which is actually, those are two questions that I got today at the fair. You, through those communities, can hear from faculty who teach in those departments, as well as students who are majoring in these departments and have had research opportunities or internships, or alums who are actually in the field and can tell you what the power of the degree that they have gotten at our institutions is in the real world. So I highly encourage you to use those communities to connect with those types of community members, because apart from hearing from admission officers like ourselves, I cannot emphasize how critical it is to hear about an institution from people who are currently experiencing it as students, or who are teaching at it, or who are advising students, or who have graduated and can tell you how this institution has played a part in their lives. So those voices, those authentic voices, are something that we're trying to make available to you in a variety of ways. And you can certainly take advantage of it through the programming or discussion boards. But it's also, you have friends, right? You have friends and family members perhaps who have gone to Union, or who have gone to Wellesley, or are currently going, or maybe your counselors know of these students. So reaching out to them and asking for their honest opinion is something that I strongly encourage you to do, especially when you cannot decide between institutions and you're trying to make important decisions, whether to submit an additional application or not, or where to enroll, right? Which would be, this time next year, a lot of you are going to be going through that decision making. And ask questions, not just about the resources and majors and opportunities that are available at the campus, but also try to get a sense of what is the culture of the place. Nicole already pointed out some great suggestions for questions to ask in your interview, which would help you find out what type of community is it? What do students do on the weekend? How does advising happen? Every college is going to have an advising system, right? Everyone will help you, will have you as an assigned advisor in your major. But apart from that, how do faculty mentor you? How easy it is to access them? How easy is it to get involved in their research? And, what kind of advice do faculty give you? All of these questions are going to be really, really important to get a sense of what is the culture and how does it support students in general? How does it support international students in particular? That was a question that was really important when I was making my choices. And then obviously the experience during and after college, because the best institutions offer you not just a degree, not just 4 years of great experience, but are part of your life and support you and inspire you throughout your lifetime. And so finding out how that works through the conversations with community members is a really important piece. And connecting with admission officers. So this will vary from institution to institution, but generally, I just want to liberate you from the preconception that, or the impression that is out there that you have to write directly to your regional admission officer in order for you to somehow make an impression on them or to get some sort of advantage in the admissions process. I don't want you to worry about this. I want you to worry about how you find the answers of all these questions that you have about the institution and utilize the best channels that we make available to you. So when you, for example, have a question and you're wondering who to reach out to, look at the website and the address that we provide there, because those email addresses generally are staffed on a daily basis, right? And so you might expect an answer to come very shortly. Rather than emailing an admission officer who may be on vacation or may be traveling or may not be able to respond within days or sometimes weeks. So you don't have to find the person who coordinates the region from which you're applying. You just do not have to do that research. It's not going to get you any points in the admissions process. And also don't reach out just for the sake of reaching out. Reach out if you actually have a question and you need help answering it. Again, I guarantee you that institutions track demonstrated interest in a variety of ways. Some of them don't track it at all. But sending emails to particular people is not going to be one of those ways. If you engage with events or in a meaningful way through the opportunities that we make available to you, that will be available to us in the process. So we will be able to see that you joined a particular session. You will also think about when you're emailing materials for your application, what are those email addresses or channels that we're suggesting for you to upload or send materials, especially if those are outside of the main coalition or common application, things like music supplements or art supplements. Those usually have particular channels that we're suggesting for you to upload. So pay attention to these and instructions, because you want to make sure that the materials that you want to end up in your application end up there and are available to all readers who work with your applications, not just that one person who you heard, maybe the regional advisor. So I hope that is helpful. I think this is sort of the end of our prepared talking points. I will share how you can get in touch. Oops, sorry, lots of lines happening here on the how to reach out to Wellesley and to Union. And oops, I'm sorry, again, some of those slides got converted to PowerPoint, with a little bit more space in between. But here's the addresses that you can use to reach out to us. And sorry, whoops.
And I see the nudge. So if everyone wants to go ahead and add their questions in the chat, Olivia and Nikos will make sure that we get a chance to get those directed toward us. So go ahead and add any questions in at this point, and we will be happy to answer them. Nikos, is there anything we missed?
Yeah, no. Thank you so much, girls. It was great, everything so far. And until our students here get their questions together, I would like to ask you one. Can you give us a couple of examples of things that turn you off towards a student in an interview, or even in an essay, or in an application in general? Something that was a mistake, something that you wouldn't like them to say or think or write. Some examples, even funny or serious or whatever pops in your head from the past, from your rich experience.
Well, I think, when someone comes in and they don't know this goes to what I said before, but they have no idea anything about the school when they sit down at all, as in they don't even have an idea if we offer their major that they're interested in. That I understand that they're open and they're learning, that's fine for a college fair, but when you hit an interview setting, then by then you should have done a little bit of time preparing. So that's pretty much the only thing I've ever had in terms of something that didn't go well in an interview, and sort of like a no, or a student has said, I'm really not interested, but my mom made me come. That's probably not something you want to share either. Parents make you do crazy things. Maybe don't just share that in the interview. Good things are stories, right? Both in the essay and in the interview. So, I have students who've told pretty great stories about their interests. One student this year, he raises birds, these small, very specific kind of birds. And so his essay, and also he talked about it in his interview about, how he got into that. And, I think a lot of times kids think, someone asked me today, like, what are activities? What does that mean? And especially in COVID times, what does activities mean? And for this student, their activity had nothing to do with school. It really had to do with something they just were randomly interested in, and they could tell us about, and they spent a lot of time learning about the care of these birds and, and sort of a rescue opportunity. So, I would say that when you're thinking about the things to tell us about, don't feel like it has to fit into a particular formula, or that we have any particular expectations, or that you have to become something you're not. Feel totally comfortable in whatever it is that is the thing you enjoy, and feel free to let that, be communicated either in the interview and in the application as well. Milena, do you have something to add to that? I think would be my thoughts in that direction.
I think these are some great thoughts, Nicole, that resonate with me. One thing I wanted to say, especially in relation to what we've discussed so far, this whole research that you're going to do, utilizing these different opportunities that we offer, is hope you actually might have an opportunity to use that knowledge of the institution that you have collected through, having an interview or attending their sessions or engaging on the virtual communities. When you're asked in the application, why you're applying to Wellesley or Union, and a lot of colleges have that question. That's part of their application, right? Supplement to their application. So when you're answering it, that's why the research matters, right? So you can both make up your mind, right? That's the most important. You make up your mind. How does this institution look like a fit for you? But also when you're completing your application, to be able to articulate that in your application through the supplement. So something that doesn't benefit you in the supplement, in particular in answering why Wellesley or why Union, would be if you keep that answer very general, so it's not really applicable to the institution, or it's applicable to any other institution. If it is the liberal arts aspect of the curriculum, maybe you can make it a little bit more specific through the information you have about Wellesley, or why the liberal arts at Wellesley resonates with you. So staying too general in that application or in the interview when you talk about your interest in an institution is not going to benefit you in the process.
I'll also be really honest, and I guess owning my deficits. So one thing also not to do in the interview is that we're admissions folks, so we're supposed to know a lot of things about the institution, but our depth of knowledge can only go so far. So I did have a really amazing young man who came to the interview, had done a ton of research. He knew more about our instrumentation in our physics department than I could ever know. I think maybe more than some of our physics students knew. And he had deep questions about this instrumentation and research that crushed me. I will say it crushed. I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. You're talking about next level stuff here. So in that situation, please know that I will connect you with a physics professor or a physics student or both to answer your really fabulous but way beyond me questions that dive deep into the academics. So I think, being comfortable with maybe not disappointed in the fact that I can't answer your deep physics questions in terms of research. I'll do my best, and then know that when I connect you with our teachers, our professors, and our students, that they genuinely want to connect with you and to answer all of your really fabulous questions and get to that depth that you might be interested in. So that would be, when we offer you those opportunities, take them. Do, like Milena said, reach out to our professors, reach out to our students, and ask those really great questions.
We have one question here. Do you have any activity recommendations that you see students find interesting and that are appreciated by admission committees?
I think everything that's authentic to the student, right? So there's, I just told you about birds, not everyone's going to be into birds, but, the kid who is into birds, that's cool, and like my 12-year-old daughter, she's totally geeked out on succulents right now and plants, and that's her jam, right? And also loves cello and soccer. And my other kid is totally into dance and don't talk to her about anything other than music. So I think kids should just live their true selves. And also, if they don't know, sometimes kids go from the Greek system, for example, to an IB curriculum or an international school and suddenly have access to all these clubs that they've never had access to before. Try some things. You don't have to love it. You don't have to know that you're going to love it. Just try it. And then later, if you hated it, well, that's a great story to tell too in your admissions interview. That not every kid loves MUN. So maybe I tried it and that was so uncomfortable for me. Great. That's awesome. Tell me about it. But I think, either do the things you really like or be comfortable just, exploring and and that's okay. Kids don't have to know.
Yes, totally seconding that recommendation. Students should feel free to do and explore anything that resonates with them. Standing out in this process doesn't really come from fitting a particular mold or checking boxes for particular activities. That would be painful and uncomfortable, right? It's standing out comes from fully going after the things that speak to you, that engage you, that move you, and also articulating those things in the admissions process. Being able to grow based on that inner drive rather than on someone's idea of who you should be, and developing that idea to articulate who you are in the application, that is what we will appreciate. And that is what will make you stand out in a highly selective pool. So try not to follow anyone else's blueprint. You just, carve your own path and, use your curiosity, your passion, and your motivation to pick activities. And whatever you pick, right, is going to be fine, whether it's the birds or the succulents or knitting for peace, or being the chair of the MUN for the national group. Any of those would be great, and we have students with any of those who have been admitted and really successful, and we love having in our communities.
That is great. I think that you have covered so nicely the theme that we don't have many questions, and I encourage the students to think and come up with some questions. And in order to keep the discussion going, I would like to take the discussion a little further and get out of the initial theme a little bit, but enter topics that students are interested in knowing how they work. For example, the students apply, and then we have reading and decision time for you. Can you tell us a few things about this part of the process and actually how the committee works and the decisions are made? And when the financial aid application gets in the game, I don't know if this is classified information, what happens behind the curtain, but we would love to know if you can tell us a few things.
Because I think sometimes students think that it's a competition with all the other applications. And it's not really like that. When we're in and read, I don't know how it is for other schools, but when I talk to my colleagues, it's really just talking first and foremost about a student's fit at our school and how they may fit in and do well at our school. So it's not really necessarily like, are you competing against everyone else, but how well have you communicated through your application, through your transcripts, through your interview, through your engagement, that this is the right place for you. And so I think just understanding that about the application process, I think is a unique way to think about it, and that it begins with your ability to kind of reflect on, what you put in your application and how much time you spent thinking about, is this school a good fit for you? And that can be things like, where am I at in their average GPA? Students ask that a lot today, or average test scores. Like, in thinking about what are some of your likely schools to get into, what are your, sort of a little bit of a reach and then your super reach schools, and sort of setting your expectations in that way so that you have a good mix of those schools when you're applying. I think that's something I would say to consider, and that's something we consider as well, that once your application is in review, you should have a pretty good idea of how it's going to move through that process. And, kids reach because they want to reach, and does it sometimes work out? Absolutely. But, having that good mix would be something I would consider. And that's a lot of times how we review, is just thinking about kids being successful on our campus, and wanting that to be the right place for them. Milena?
So yes, I echo all of these. I would also tell you the admission process and how applications move through it. There is a lot at different colleges. Happy to share how that works at Wellesley specifically, but it's not going to necessarily be representative of the majority of colleges. I would tell you that there's probably a regional component to the review, because reading applications first by a school group and then country and region or state allows us to some extent to get a sense of the context that the students are studying in, and to what extent they are taking advantages of opportunities available in their community. At the least, so all of us are looking for students who are qualified and who would come and succeed at our institutions, but also who take full advantage of the opportunities that we offer. So how you behave currently in your community, in your school, where are you in the pool of Greek applicants is important to us. And so getting a sense of that through at least some of the rounds of reading is often plays a role. There are typically in the process, there will be many people looking at your application. That might start with an individual admission officer reading it, or a couple of admission officers reading it together, maybe reading the full application together and talking to each other about what they see, and trying to kind of resolve where you fall in the pool, or some of them, one of the admission officers reading one part and the other admission officer reading other parts of the application, and again having that conversation and discussion before they they figure out, okay, this application in our pool is looking really, really compelling, or maybe we're not sure. So then the conversation moves to a larger team typically, and that is with the support of either the person overseeing international admission, or the dean, or the director, and some team of people looking at your application together, and deciding how to make what the outcome would be. But there are many steps and many stages and many eyes looking at your application, and a lot of attention that is paid on interpreting your academic achievement, interpreting your likelihood of taking advantage of opportunities at a campus, and who you would be at the campus, right? We want to kind of see, when you are in our community, what would you contribute? What are those interests and talents that you would bring? How would you be approaching your assignments? how would you be communicating with the people around you? At residential campuses, we are hoping that people would be good roommates as well as good students, right? And good community members. So all of these questions are trying to be answered in this very complicated process. And also the financial aid component plays an important role. Some colleges would have the commitment to meet 100% of whatever your financial aid need is. Some colleges would be offering you only partial financial aid. Some colleges will have merit aid, need-based financial aid. So depending on that, financial aid will play or not a part in the admission process, and would be considered either in the initial stage of reviewing the application or at the latest stage in reviewing the application. I know that this doesn't give you like really concrete answers, but hopefully some sense of what happens with your materials once you click submit, which is, by the way, a session that Wellesley offers, and it features our director of admission who tells you exactly what happens with your application when you click submit, and because we want to be transparent about it.
Well, it still gives a general idea to the kids of how things work. And since we have a few more minutes until we finish, so I encourage students to ask questions in general about the admission process if they want, and not only about the interviews, etc. I would like to ask you, since we have some seniors also attending today, it's mostly for juniors and sophomores, but since we have some seniors attending, what happens with the wait list? How does that work? Can you tell us a couple of things?
Sure. Waitlist. So right now we're in the process of hearing from the students to whom we extended offers, right? And so by early May, we will know how many of them have accepted, and we will know whether we have space in our classes to consider applicants who are on the wait list. If you want to be given any consideration and you're at an institution on whose wait list you are currently, definitely be sure to reach out to them and say that you're still interested in either that they're your top choice if they truly are, or that you are really, really interested in and you would join if you're offered a spot, because we do keep track of that correspondence, and in the waitlist process we actually would focus on these students when we make decisions and are trying to complete our class. And I should also say that as someone who was on the wait list at Wellesley before being admitted, I do understand the emotional side of it, definitely, and the uncertainty that you're facing. And I want to tell you that applicants who are on the wait list are really, really strong applicants. So you should feel really good about the fact that you have been offered a place on the wait list, and hopefully, some of them would work out, or your best choices would still work out. But we do tend to refuse the candidates who are not qualified. So if you are on the wait list, you are a strong candidate.
I see. Nicole, you want to add something to that?
I don't think there's anything to add. I think that pretty much covered all of it. Is the reality. It's not like, it's hard choices, and limited spots. That's the difficult part.
Yes, and the uncertainty, because we don't know how much space we will have, if any, right? And so every year we might take a different number of students off of the wait list. At Wellesley, that has ranged between 15 and 75 students, right, in previous years, the last few years. So we have no idea, and it kind of can be happening in May or June, or this year in July. Staying on top of that correspondence, using that email account, checking the emails that come from us, if we send any, is still relevant advice.
Okay, that's great. And as I see we're running out of time, I would like to thank a lot Nicole Wensley from Union College and Milena Mareva from Wellesley College for sharing their wisdom and their experience with us. And I would like also to thank all the students who attended, and wish them good luck in the process. Be confident, and you're all gonna make it. And see you all soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.